starring in famous movies since 1915. More than 750 songs written about Chevy, from rap to rock to country and pop. Lyrics like "See the USA in my Chevrolet," "Drove my Chevy to the levee," and "Little Red Corvette." Louis believed that anything is possible. Find an edge, never give up. That competitive spirit drives us today. Always innovating, reinventing what moves us forward. In 1933, Chevrolet offered its first car radio, and in 1953, our first curved glass windshield. We pioneered many automotive firsts, including the first affordable automatic transmission, the Power Glide. Created SUV category with 35 Suburban. Introduced the American sports car, the iconic '53 Corvette, favorite of enthusiasts and famous astronauts. Legendary small block V8 revolutionized industry, dominates streets and race circuits worldwide. First crew cab dually pickup. Modern day heavy duty truck. Innovative spirit continues to shine in current lineup. First ever Silverado ZR2, taking off-roading to the next level. Bold and commanding SUV lineup, from Trailblazer to Traverse and Tahoe to all new tracks. 8th gen Corvette Stingray and all new Z06, elite mid-engine supercar, one like none. 24 Corvette E-Ray, first all-wheel drive and electrified Corvette. EVs for everyone, everywhere. Affordable all-electric Bolt and larger Bolt EUV. Coming soon, built from ground up on revolutionary Ultium battery platform. First ever all-electric Silverado. 400-mile range on a full charge. First ever all-electric Blazer. SS trim in wide-open Watts mode. GM estimated 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds. First ever all-electric Equinox. Available GM estimated 300-mile range on a full charge. Estimated starting MSRP around $30,000 on LT. More to come. Earned best awards from trusted automotive experts. Car and Driver, Road and Track, Kelley Blue Book, etc. JD Power 2022, most awarded brand for new vehicle quality. Spirit of Chevrolet is alive and well. Anything is possible. We never give up. Future feels electric. Find new roads. CTA.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me okay? I could tell by all the side conversations going on, you were absolutely riveted by our corporate video we put. We were debating about whether we should put a corporate video, but we wanted to show it because it features Corvette pretty prominently. You don't always see that in Chevrolet video. So my name's Tadge Juechter. I am still working on Corvette, and I am not retiring. Just to get that out of the way. At least not today, or not soon. Anyway, it's been 4 years since I've been here, so missed you guys. Through the pandemic, everything we've been through, and then last year we had a conflict with Laguna Seca, and so everybody, the whole family's here together for the birthday bash, and it's great to be here. It's great to myself, Josh Holder, our chief engineer, and Harlan Charles, our marketing manager. We're going to be running through our usual slides on the state of the business, the Corvette business, but we're just representing the whole team up here. We have a huge number of folks here supporting this event, both from Kentucky and from Michigan. I'd like to recognize everybody in the back. Please raise your hand if you're here representing General Motors and Corvette. Thank you, guys. And I'd further like to recognize those folks that this is their last birthday bash. As you've seen in the papers, there's going to be a lot of retirements at General Motors, and that has affected the Corvette team pretty dramatically. Kai announced his yesterday, and we have some other folks I'd like they to raise their hands in the back. who are here for their last birthday bash, and I want to give them some recognition. We've got Mike Klakulak, our interior VSE, Tim Campbell, our quality manager, phenomenal employees. Jeff Strouser in the dark over here. Everybody knows Jeff. And there's more. Am I missing anybody? Is Kuchar in here? Mike Kuchar. Mike Kuchar. Mike from our development group. And speaking of development, you just saw, a lot of you just saw the nominees, actually the award winners, to get into the Hall of Fame. And probably there's hardly a person in here who knew Dave Wickman. Dave Wickman was in our development group. He was not fond of the spotlight, but he was kind of the John Heinrichs you didn't see. He was behind the scenes, making the car great, setting very high standards. He was a phenomenal driver and leader and kind of standard bearer for the car. New cars inside out. He worked on the active suspension Corvette ages ago. Everybody who worked in the development group, which I did for a while, kind of looked up to Dave as a natural leader, a phenomenal engineer, a great vehicle evaluator. He could pick apart a car like nobody's business. And so that's why he was nominated, and I'm amazed to see that he's going to go in the Hall of Fame. He's making us all proud. So if you didn't know Dave, believe me, Dave deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Okay, let's get on with the show. So here's us. Somebody did ask me, do you still work here? Do you still work on Corvette? I know it's been a long time. I do. Anyway, so I'm going to run through a few slides. We'll have Harlan and Josh chime in, and then hopefully we'll have time for Q&A at the end. So here's some of the stuff we're really proud of. If you look back over the last year, probably a lot of this is not news to you, but stuff that we're really proud of. So J.D. Power, Corvette has never been ranked number one in J.D. Power before, but this year we were ranked not just the best in our segment, but the best car you could buy in North America, basically. So think of all the people famous for quality, whether it's Toyota, Lexus, Honda, Porsche. You think of all the elite players putting their best stuff into the market here. Corvette was number one above all of them, Platinum Award. And that speaks so highly to Bowling Green, because you can't have the best car without the best plant building it. Consumer Reports. Consumer Reports isn't always the best friend of General Motors. They're highly critical of our cars, but guess what? It's not. You can't deny how great the Corvette is, and you can see it's ranked number one among sports cars. Thank you. They get that ranking from customers, surveys returned from customers. And so one of the questions on the surveys is, would you buy it again? And once again, in all of the surveys for all the cars, not just sports cars, Corvettes, 94% people responded they'd buy it again. Porsche was number two in all cars, 90%. And I like to think that the 6% that didn't respond, they haven't gotten their Z06 yet. So it would be 100% if you asked everybody. So, okay, U.S. News and World Report. You would expect me to start with Car and Driver and Road and Track, Motor Trend. You'd expect me to start with that. But these are kind of outside the auto industry awards that we're really happy with. So U.S. News and World Report, so people that you wouldn't expect to be necessarily a huge sports car fan, we're ranked number one there. Best resale, you guys know, if you bought a C8 in 2020, if you were on the list, you've done very well with your cars. You've essentially driven for free because the resale value is very, very strong, and we are really hoping that continues. Again, number one. Fourth consecutive year. Car and Driver did a long-term test. They ran 40,000 miles. Basically, the car delivered without a hitch. They're huge fans. Successor to the original NSX, the everyday supercar, isn't the current NSX, it's this Corvette. One of the quotes on there. Car and Driver, so now I'm getting into the meat of the folks that normally evaluate our cars. Car and Driver tested, here's the Z06. It's an American Ferrari and then some. If you saw all of our spy shots of us testing the Z06, you saw us that we had a Ferrari 458 along with us. And the reason we had a 458 is that car was considered widely, if you talk to the media, which we do talk to a lot of automotive media, they considered that the best sports car ever built. Even its successor was a step back, the 488. And so we wanted to capture that soul in the Z06, but at a higher performance level. And we also brought a Porsche GT2 RS along. It was a $400,000 Porsche 911. We brought that. It's like a clinical speed car. It's just incredibly capable, but it doesn't have the same kind of soul as the Ferrari. And if you watched us going through our tests over years, you saw we had those two cars as benchmarks. And what we wanted to do is really capture that soul of the Ferrari, but the speed, the kind of the clinical speed and capability of the Porsche. And the media's reports basically bear that out. And it was funny because when I was growing up, when I was a kid, the idea of driving a top-line Porsche or a top-line Ferrari would have been such an aspirational thing. It would just be mind-blowing, like I could die a happy person if I could have that experience. If you were on our ride trips with us, you could hear us complain about having to drive the Ferrari because the Corvette was so much better and so much more fun and so much faster, so much more forgiving and so much better. So it really is true, and you can see the media is realizing that. And anybody, I've talked to a few of you who've gotten your Z06s, and people seem to be very happy. It's a unique driving experience. So their bottom line here is to call the Z06 an American Ferrari is to short its credit. Okay, they gave us the 10 Best Awards, and they actually raised the bar for pricing so that we could get in there with both a Stingray and a Corvette. I like this quote because it speaks to the bandwidth we're always trying to create in the car. It does a lot of things well, fits in with a lot of people's lifestyles, and they recognize that. They say the best cars are often narrowly focused on cosseting luxury or ferocious performance or utter practicality, set too many goals, and it's easy to arrive at forgettable mediocrity. We're very well aware of that. We work in a very large corporation where there's tons of people telling us what to do, and we're very careful to make sure we don't water down the car from what we know our customers want. And so they conclude, the Chevrolet Corvette, however, defies the notion that you can't please everyone. It's a sophisticated grand tourer, hard-edged track rat, an everyday grocery getter with two trunks. So we kept that in mind. We worked really hard. We were constantly reminding the team of feedback we have from you and the way that we watch you interact with your cars, whether it was C5, 6s, 7s. We wanted to make sure that the car retained its practicality, and so that was kind of top of mind as we went through all these difficult choices to put a car together and on the road. Motor Trend, number one in sports cars, best premium performance coupes. Motor Trend, Chevrolet Z06, first test, best American sports car ever made. Basically pointing at exactly what I was describing to in our development aspirations for the car. And this is really true. I like the quote where they say, as a result of relentless focus on building the best traditional supercar possible, on prioritizing the driving experience over all else, and making it a stone-cold assassin on the track. We really, we were able to move the Z06 in a very track-oriented direction, but we were always focused on the driving experience. What's the sound quality? What's the tactile feel? Does the car feel all together? Does everything, the character of the engine, the character of the chassis, does that all match? We spent a lot of time focused on that, and you can see people are realizing that it really does work out that way. So they gave us the Performance Vehicle of the Year. So we're just super proud. Anyway, we could spend all day just going on and on with our media. There's nothing that we like better than patting ourselves in the back in front of a large audience. So forgive us for that, but we're not sure everybody's seen all of these. Here's the Road and Track. The Corvette Z06 is astonishing. So more and more. They gave us their Performance Car of the Year. And okay, I'm done bragging about myself. I'm done talking about what a great job we did. And so I'm going to introduce Harlan here to go through some of the build statistics that I know people are interested in. I'll be back.
So all that excitement, and I get to follow up with some data sheets. But I think a lot of people are interested in seeing how the colors do. You know, okay, this is through March, how we're doing with Corvette. Over 40,000 total so far for 2023. We're actually, the record was 1979. I should just save this for trivia, but the record was 1979, you did 53,000. I think 2023 is setting up, it could be among the highest volume Corvette in our 70-year history. So we'll see how it ends up. But, so it's kind of interesting though, you look at the colors, there's a little difference between Stingray and Zeo Stingray. We've been doing torch red, Arctic white, black, still top three for Z06, but black moved up to the top. I guess you got that sinister component there. And then interiors, of course, the black and red interiors always do well. And then you're starting to see, you know, of course, the higher trim levels do the best. We're starting to see, except for the Stingray Coupe, the 2LT is the most popular. And I'll just show you a few options here. You know, on the Z51 is very popular, of course, with the Stingray, the brake caliper options, the 70th anniversary, which we'll talk about, is doing well. Front lift, over half of the cars, the excellent front lift feature, things like that. What else? Of course, most cars get the exhaust option as well. And for wheels, I was just in the middle of my annual debate where one person said, why wouldn't you get anything but black wheels? And one person said, why wouldn't you get anything but chrome or bright wheels? So that happens every year. So but it looks like the black wheels are winning so far. And then on the Z06 so far, oops, I skipped one. Z06 so far, of course, we're seeing, you know, Z07 and the ground and the carbon aero package, of course. Everybody knows, try to buy that. You know, those have been one of our challenges, and they're very popular, even above our lofty expectations. Black wheels are most popular in the Z06 as well. And the interesting thing on the Z06, I forgot to mention in the first part, it's actually, we talked about this before, convertible is very popular, about half. Actually, Z06 is even slightly more convertible than coupe as well. It proves you can have it all, performance and open air. And then we always like to talk about the real contest and how all of you, thanks to all of you, Corvette remains #1 in luxury sports cars. And you know, these are the best companies in the world, best cars in the world. Every big ego is going against each other, and we can clearly win, you know, close to 50% of the share. So almost as many Corvettes as everything else combined is what the luxury sports car segment is. And of course, the same cars on the showroom are what we're racing against all over the world now, both IMSA and on the World Endurance Series as well. So we're going against all these top hitters. And of course, we opened up with the C8R with 2 championships. With 2022, a little tougher. We had to go into the GT Daytona class. And you know, the balance of performance and things, a little struggle that year, but we're off to a good start this year. So we really have divided it up. So we have the 2 cars into the 2 different series. We have the North American Focus Series, the IMSA GT Daytona, and we have the WEC, you know, the World Endurance Championship Series that goes international. And we're really excited, you know, 2 wins, 2 for 2 this year. And that's a big class. There's like, I think 14 cars in that class. So you win first place, that's a lot. I know some people remember we used to be just us, you know, back in the C60. But anyway, no, we've got a lot of competition, and actually, let's pull for everybody at Spa in Belgium this weekend to win as well. And let's talk a little about the Z06. Hey Josh, you want to take over here? This is where the racing transitions into the Z06 as our race car.
Here you have the dead one. It's just off.
I gave you an off one.
Thank you. Okay, so in Daytona, a lot of people saw that we finally took the cover off the Z06 GT3R. This is the customer campaign race car. We worked closely with Pratt & Miller. In fact, we sort of showed our cards on this a couple of years ago. We announced that we were going to enter into this partnership. The class of racing is changing quite a bit. And to grow that class in Corvette, we think this is the best approach. It's a car that looks most like what you can go to the showroom and buy. And we've had a lot of interest in the car. It uses a lot of parts from the Z06. We say the Z06 is a race car for the street. This is a validation of that. Shares everything from the primary body structure to most of the engine. And I've had a lot of people ask, well, I'd like to get one of those. Can I buy a race car? And if you're willing to campaign a full race team, there's a way to buy a race car. I would love to own a race car and just stick it in my garage and drive it around on the street. That'd be super cool and fun, but it's not a real practical choice for most of us to make. And this car is all business, but we're really excited about it. And it's just another example of the technology transfer between the race team and the production team. Okay, who was here for the presentation Harlan and I gave last year? All right, do you want to give this part of the presentation for the 8 people that were here? All right, the Z06 is not old news. It's very, very relevant. And I've talked to a lot of you that have Z06s on order and a few lucky people that have received their Z06. The most important piece of news about the Z06 is that this week, by the end of shift tonight, actually Kai hinted on it yesterday, we'll have built 250 Z06s this week. So there are a lot of people working really hard to not just maintain that number, but to grow it more. We told a lot of you last year at this time, you're gonna have to be really patient. We're gonna be deliberate about our rollout, and I think most of you are like, yeah, whatever, it'll be like Z06 was last time. But this really, really is a race car for the street, and we wanna be very thorough and intentional about our launch of this very special car. Okay, so in case you don't know what's new about Z06, I'll touch on some highlights. The most noticeable thing is the body. The car's about 3.5 inches wider. That necessitated new front and rear fascias, fenders, quarter panels to cover that wide, aggressive track. There's a new rocker and splitter and aero performance. And we've talked again about how this car really is a track-focused Corvette, as Z06 has always been. This Z06 is even more so. If you are a track enthusiast or just love the feel of all-out visceral performance, the Z06 is your ultimate Corvette. We do the wide body work to cover the wide tires and wheels. Rear tires, 345 millimeters wide. That's 13 inches wide. In fact, the Z06 and the E-Ray that we'll talk about in a minute has over 4 feet of rubber touching the road, 4 feet wide of rubber contact patch. So that's what allows that exhilarating performance, and not just acceleration, but cornering and braking. If you ever get a chance to drive or ride in a Z06 with somebody that can really throw it around the track, the braking performance is maybe the most remarkable part about the Z06 on the track. Acceleration, no slouch. It wasn't meant to be a drag car. It's a result of all this good performance. So 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds, quarter mile, 1060 at 131. And again, that wide tire contact patch with the Michelin Cup 2R tires gives outstanding lateral acceleration, 1.22. So for those most that know what lateral acceleration means, for those that don't, imagine your body weight plus another quarter of your body weight pushing you against the side of the seat. And a lot of that lateral acceleration in the Z06 is happening at really high speed. Whoops. Just some high points about the Z06. We talked a lot last year about how we designed the exhaust. In fact, we stopped before the pandemic, re-racked the whole design of the exhaust to make it as special as we could be. It was one of the missions of Z06. We also offered for the first time ever a carbon fiber wheel. The rear wheel is the widest carbon fiber wheel in production, and together they save about 41 pounds of unsprung mass. For those that know race cars and performance, you know that mass is critical to any sports car, especially unsprung mass and especially rotational mass. So wheels are a very critical component to design with high efficiency and lightweight. In fact, in our own testing, because we have Z06s with and without carbon fiber wheels, we saw about a 2-second lap time improvement on our own road course just by changing the wheels. So they're very impactful for performance and even street driving. You can really tell the difference in the stiffness of the wheel. But the heart of the Z06 is the engine. It's the most powerful, naturally aspirated V8 ever made. I think the most impressive part about this, aside from the horsepower, 670 horsepower, the 8,600 RPM red line, is maybe one that doesn't get noticed as much. It only weighs 1 kilogram, so that's a little over 2 pounds, more than the LT2. And it's got that much more power. It's got 3 more camshafts. It's got all this race car technology in it that allows us to save that weight. Titanium rods. At some point, some of you will get to see the Performance Build Center. We've talked a lot about it. Kai and his team have showed videos. That shop is amazing. And the skilled craftsmen and women that put these together really are race engine builders. And this race engine goes in every Z06 we make. Okay, I think Harlan's going to touch on
so
70th.
we another big news for 23, obviously, we brought the 270th anniversary cars, but I realized I should have just had you guys bring, I've seen so many beautiful ones that you've brought. Anybody here who's brought, is that there, you? Of course you. But anyway, it's beautiful to see them on the road, and you know, of course we have the pearl white tin coat and the carbon flash as the 2 colors. There's special stripes available for each color as well, as you can see in that. And we brought one of each, Stingray Z06, coupe convertible, and one of each color. You can see here's the Stingray in the pearl white, and then the carbon flash. And some of the details, of course, the red stripe wheels for both Stingray and Z06, the special badging, special wheel caps. One of the cool things that we did is all 2023 Corvettes have the rear window logo and a special interior plaque. So every 2023 car, to some extent, celebrates 70 years of Corvette as well. Special sill plates also. And in the interior is really, I think, one of the key parts of it too. It's exclusive to the 70th anniversary, the ceramic white leather with red stitching and red seat belts. And you can get either and we have one of each here too, the GT2 seat or the Comp Sport seat. And if you look at those, you'll notice the colors flip depending on which one you get. And here's the Z06 version, and the pearl white, and the carbon flash as well. So again, there's still time to get those, and we're really excited to celebrate. And we think we're on pace for over 5,000 anniversary cars this year. It's really doing it great, and you can see that in the numbers from before.
Defying nature. It's what defines the all-new 2024 Corvette E-Ray, the quickest Corvette ever. With 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. An electrified all-wheel drive that handles all 4 seasons. With a 6.2-liter V8 plus an electric drive motor to power the front wheels for unparalleled traction. A force on the track or off. Beauty finding strength in the extremes. 70 years in the making. The next chapter of Corvette. A supercar of contrasts. It's everything you never expected. One like none.
Glad you liked it. Thanks, Josh, for going through the Z06. I didn't highlight it when I was talking about some of the media articles, but the Z06 at the Car and Driver Lightning Lap set the fastest lap time ever for a naturally aspirated engine by quite a margin, and was the 5th fastest of all time, and the other cars are like hypercars that are actually quicker with it on track. We're glad to see them testing it on track. That's where the car was designed to be. Some of us were set back a little bit because when media first got their hands on Z06s, all you saw was drag racing. People were racing the cars, and that's the last thing we were thinking about on a Z06 was to make a dragster out of it. But it acquitted itself quite well against other pretty stout competition. So that was awesome, and thanks, Harlan, for going over the 70th. It would be amazing if, in the celebration of our 70th anniversary, that it was the highest-selling model year of Corvette of all time. That would just be astonishing if that was true. So the E-Ray, you think back, and this shot goes back to the Waldorf Astoria, so 1953, basically where it all started. You can see January 17th. 1953, and so we revealed the E-Ray on the 70th anniversary, literally 70 years. So we had 70 years to plan for that date, and we nailed it. We got it exactly. On that date, we did the reveal, and we showed that video. And on that date, that's when Zora saw the car. That's when Zora saw the car at the Waldorf Astoria. And he, like many people, got imprinted on it. He felt like he was drawn to it. He wanted to work on it. He wanted to help GM make it a successful sports car. Sports cars were in his blood. And so that actually drew him to GM and ultimately to working on Corvettes. And the reason we're bringing that up now is he was a big advocate for mid-engine, so he built cars with the engine on the back, and all-wheel drive. And he managed to coerce enough GM resources into building cars to try to validate that that was the way to go. Some of you remember Serve 2, so 1964. So that's 11 years later. Here he is building these exotic cars. These are kind of demonstration vehicles, what we'd call engineering test and development vehicles, proof of concept kind of vehicles. So here he is building this car. In 1964, the world's first mid-engine, four-wheel drive sports car, and it did 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds. It took many, many decades before any car came close, regardless of price, of the cost of the vehicle. The thing I find amazing, okay, that was a long time ago. You look at the hot cars at the time. Here's Motor Trend. The top line says hot parts for the Vega and Pinto. So that's the environment that this car comes out in. A car that does 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds, that's pretty darn impressive. And it took us until C8, effectively, to get there. But the same concepts, the same things he was thinking about are the same things that we were thinking about in driving the performance of the car forward. I've been coming to Corvette events for as long as I've worked on Corvette, and not everybody, but a lot of people would say, why don't you have all-wheel drive? And I have to go through this long, complicated explanation as to why you can't put shafts through the engine sump. The engine's low and just forward of your toes in the car, and the gas pedal is right tucked up against the bell housing, and there's no place to put any kind of differential or shafts to get out to the front axle. Front axle's forward of the engine. So it was an impossibility with the engine there. With the engine in the back, that opened up a whole bunch of ways that we could do that. And one of the things we're especially proud of is that we're able to do it in a way that doesn't detract from anything else about the car. People are super worried about electrification. We took the technology in batteries and motors, and we tried to use them in a way that didn't take anything away, only added to the driving experience. So more performance, more capability. The video shows all-weather capability, but it also can be used in perfectly dry to help the vehicle dynamics. And the thing is a rocket off the line. So we think we've taken that technology and used it in a way that will really appeal to Corvette customers. And to be honest, when we went to our battery folks in-house who've been working on bolts and other GM EVs, they were scratching their head because we weren't concerned about range. That wasn't even a thing. We were concerned about power. How do you get as much power in and power out of the battery pack? And so for them, it was super exciting to be working on the same kinds of technology, but push it in a totally different direction, totally into a performance-oriented direction. So it was a really fun project for those folks.
One of the fun things, we had that picture with the 53 car that we were pointing out to the media, was that the 1953 Corvette had a 150 horsepower engine in the front. Now we have a 160 horsepower electric motor in the front, plus a 495 horsepower V8 in the rear.
And the 160 horsepower motor in the front is about the size of a lunchbox. It's incredibly compact. Whoops. All righty. Where was I? Is it? Okay. So a way to think about, because from a distance, the cars have kind of the same proportions. They look they're similar between Z06 and E-Ray. The price points are kind of similar. They're in the same ballpark. So why do two different cars? Why don't you just do one? And the reason is because we think there's two different markets for people with cars like that. The Z06 is a point solution. We wanted to be able to push it to be the pinnacle driving experience at the limit, fastest car we could make on the track. But there's still, when you do that, you start to compromise ride quality. You put cup tires on the car, and we have lots of people who they want the best Corvette they can get, so they check all the boxes. They buy the most expensive one, and they find themselves commuting in the rain with racing slicks on the car. So we really wanted to try to diverge the cars into one that's more performance focused and another one that brings the performance level up, but in the way that we've done on the Stingray, where it does a lot of things well. I was talking about it earlier. It fits into your life really well, but brings that elevated performance. So we called the Z06 a scalpel for the track. So single instrument, super sharp. That's a scalpel, whereas the E-Ray is more of a Swiss Army knife. It does everything pretty well, and you won't find it out of sorts in any kind of situation. So very, very diverse application. So yeah, it's the quickest 0 to 60 car. If you race a little bit longer, a Z06 will blow by you because the Z06 has better power to weight ratio. Z06 is certainly faster on the track. But the E-Ray's no slouch on the track, especially a short track with all-wheel drive. It claws out of the corners just incredibly well. It's mind-boggling. So much of the rest of the content is similar. I mentioned the front motor. We've done everything we could to make that as compact as possible to preserve the frunk. We wanted to make sure you still had that front trunk. And we also wanted to make it as light as possible so you don't lose any of that mid-engine dynamics. So the whole case of the motor is made of magnesium with aluminum fasteners. So very, very lightweight. It tucks just forward in the front part of the tunnel. And so it doesn't really change the vehicle dynamics at all. This chart shows what I was discussing earlier. If you look at two dimensions, street legal race car versus the amount of premium, how pricey the car is, we could able to take the Z06 in the more street legal race car direction, and that leaves space for an E-Ray to go into a more luxury GT direction. So depending on how you're going to use the car, we got two choices. It's like ice cream. We got multiple flavors. They're both delicious. So here's some of the competitors. There's some very, very pricey competitors on here that are kind of E-Ray-like. The one difference, as Harlan likes to point out, is we're the only one with a V8. Everybody else is doing 6 cylinders. So you think about the future, where everything's going. Everybody's going to smaller charged propulsion systems. Here you get our ground-pounding American Thunder V8 in combination with the electrification. So I think once people drive this car, once we get it out there, they're going to love it. So here's the basics of the system. You can see the motor tucked into the front axle there. The whole tunnel is filled with the battery and power electronics. Like I said, it's a small battery. Its whole purpose is to get energy in and out very quickly. And so you'll actually see it as you drive. You can see the battery state of charge fluctuate fairly dramatically. The battery is tucked right into the center tunnel, as far away from any sort of crash danger as possible. It's protected on the bottom with heavy-duty plating, so the car is really, really secure. And the thing that's amazing about this car that we're doing that nobody else is doing is that the front drive line, so the battery, the motor, all the control stuff, is completely dissociated from the engine in the back. So you got your small block in the back with the DCT. That operates completely independently. Now, it's all coordinated with computers, so from the driver's seat, it just feels like a really powerful all-wheel drive car. But the brains behind that, all that's going on, is incredibly technical, and it's been a really long engineering problem to solve. But it's solved in such a way that people are going to be really thrilled with the way it works.
And one of the reasons that the E-Ray is the only V8 performance hybrid on the market is because of this modularity, which, by the way, was planned from the very beginning of the 8th generation Corvette. If you think about the way most people execute this, most of our competitors execute it, the electric motor would either be between the engine and the transmission or off the back of the transmission, which makes the whole car longer. To get the wheelbase back to your wannabe, you're back into a V6, and that was never in the cards for Corvette.
How many V6 fans do we have here? See, we guessed right.
In the development of the E-Ray, one of the things we did is went on a trip climbing snowy mountain roads in the middle of the winter in search of the road or the conditions that the car couldn't overcome, and we weren't able to find that.
The world is your playground. You now have this unleashed 4-season capacity where you can go canyon carving, spirited driving through twisty roads, through mountain passes, through mixed conditions. And the all-wheel drive system brings a whole nother dynamic into it. The E-Ray can comprehend every surface you're driving on and adjust the all-wheel drive balance to be optimal for the situation at hand.
The all-wheel drive system really makes use of every one of those 655 horsepower. Having all that on tap is great, but if you can't get it down to the road, it's not worth a whole lot.
The E-Ray comes with the Michelin Pilot Sport All Season 4 Plus, which was uniquely designed for the E-Ray with Michelin.
The tire is part of the key in what gives the car that really lightning fast pace, great responsiveness that can handle all kinds of weather condition. This is a car you could drive year-round, every day. Although it can be a very comfortable, easy to drive touring car, the E-Ray is also a weapon on the track.
It really brings all of these systems together to be that ultimate Corvette. E-Ray completely breaks the mold of a fair weather sports car.
Yeah, so no, I don't want to see any more of the, whoever E-Ray, you don't have to see, we see this on Facebook or on the forum. Oh, it's a sad day today, you know, it's November, I'm putting the car away for the winter, shed a tear. We'll see you next spring, old friend. Don't have to do that anymore if you don't want to. There you go, polished wheels, yep.
So you saw some of our young development engineers in this video. These are the Academy of videos are posted online, so you can go check out some of the other ones. We thought we'd just show you one here today. But like we said, you see us, but there's this whole team behind, including lots of folks in development who really make this car happen. Got a couple of great guys there. So here's we're talking about the tires, the largest all-season tires in the world, and you can actually kind of read the calendar as you go across. Michelin has this technology where they can vary the compound of rubber as it goes across the face of the tire, which is kind of astonishing. So you can have dry, warm temperature rubber in the same tire that has mixed, wet, and cold right as you go across the face of the tire. It's almost like a calendar as you move across the face of the tire with the different rubber compounds. So you can get these all-season tire standard. That's all part of all-wheel drive, making the car accessible. And we know, honestly, I've been here when it threatens rain and everybody puts their car away real fast, and we know they're your babies. And even though you can drive it all season, I know there'll be a lot of people who don't. But even if you don't drive it in deep snow, the car is super fun, and there's lots of really cool things you can do with it, like sneak out and sneak in silently. Stealth mode is really, really fun. So we were paying, when you add a battery and a motor to a car, you add a lot of weight necessarily. So even though this car is heavy-ish for a Corvette, it's very light for a hybrid vehicle. But we were paying attention to weight everywhere we looked. That's why the case of the front drive unit's made of magnesium. That's why ceramic brakes are standards. We're very conscious to make the car as light as possible. Wheels, heard some comments. Somebody likes the wheels here? Okay, got some wheel. Polished we'll have. Chrome, I'm afraid we're done with. I know. I'm sorry, but
They're beautiful wheels.
they're beautiful wheels. Yep, very lightweight, very strong, good-looking wheels. So the E-Ray starts with more of a monochrome look. You can still check the box and get the carbon flash accents, but it starts with the monochrome look. Here's some of the badging for it. We spent, I can't believe how much time we spent on what should the badge look like. We wanted something electric. Sometime look up electric eel on Google and see how attractive that creature is. It's not a good starting point, but they're.
But there really is way back, when we were first, working on this architecture, and we started imagining a car like this was possible, and just naming in general. We look at, we have Stingray, and you look at Corvettes of the past, show cars, Manta Ray and Mako Shark, and I was just looking through all that, and there really is a creature called an electric ray, and we shortened that to E-Ray, and we actually trademarked that back in 2015 in anticipation that we would do a car like this someday.
That's how far we think of this stuff ahead. I mean, the whole size of the tunnel, all of that stuff that you're used to, we were planning way from the inception of the car that's where we're going to package our batteries, how much battery can we get in there, how do we package the rest of the stuff, how do you do all the cooling on this car? So the cooling, from a capacity standpoint, looks like a Z06, but it's used very differently. You have to cool the front motor, we have to cool a battery pack. We don't have to cool an LT6 engine, fortunately. So we're able to distribute the cooling differently using similar components. So all this goes together, this complicated puzzle, to try to get the car as affordable as possible. Some of the other details, so like I mentioned before, we're really proud that we're able to retain the front trunk. You're not going to find a lot of hybrid cars with 655 horsepower that have a frunk like that. There's other really fun, obviously there's the E-Ray badging. You see the console Charge Plus, and actually there's two buttons there. One is to get rid of the start-stop. This car does have start-stop. We're one of the last people to get to start-stop. Some people like it, some people don't. It's a little disconcerting when your big, powerful V8 goes silent. So if you don't like that, there's a place to turn it off here. But there's also something called Charge Plus. So I mentioned the battery is charging and discharging. It'll try to keep itself pretty well charged, and you won't even notice it no matter how you drive it. You're not going to notice the charge fluctuating or getting low that you have to do anything. But if you ever want to top it off, like you want the maximum range the next morning when you're going to drive out in EV mode, there's this Charge Plus. And the way it works is it charges through the road. So whatever amount of engine throttle you command, so the engine on the back, it'll actually produce more torque than you're asking for, and it'll actually regen on the front wheels. So it'll actually retard the front wheels. And in Charge Plus, it's very aggressive, and you can actually feel it a little bit. But you can actually watch the battery just top itself off in just a couple of miles. And so you'll have a full charge the next morning. So if you want to put it in stealth mode and just pull out of the garage and get away from your neighbors and then light the fire in the back, fire it up, you can do that. This is what you see. Each of the cars, whether it's a Stingray, a Z06, and now the E-Ray, when you get in the car and close the door, you see the welcome animation. So we're sharing that. We try to share what's unique about the car in the animation. So in the Z06, you see a close-up of the engine. For the Stingray, we were really focused on the whole architecture. And for the E-Ray, you can see we're focused on the front drive unit and the battery position in the car. So this car operates so differently. I mean, from the driver's seat, you can get in and drive it just like any other Corvette. But actually what's going on behind the scenes is very complicated. It actually turns out to be one of the fun things to watch, how the car is operating. And so there's a lot of new gauges, a lot of new stuff that you can call up and look at to see. It can teach you what the car is doing. So here's kind of the traditional gauge setup on the cluster. But if you pick the info tiles, as you can do, you can see the hybrid battery state of charge. You can see where it is all the time. And then you can see the electric power. So you can see how much power the front axle is either using in a positive way to pull you ahead, or it's actually regenning. So it's dragging the front wheels to try to charge the battery. You can see that too. So a plus and a minus. So what we're showing here is the start sequence. Like if you put it in stealth mode. So the way you put it in stealth mode is that, I'll stop this so I can talk. So if you want to put it in stealth mode before you start the car, you actually rotate the mode switch like you normally do, and you'll get a screen, a choice. Of either a conventional start, or you can put it in stealth or shuttle, we call it. Shuttle is just like for moving the car around the garage. There's lots of times like where I wash the car. So basically I want to wash it in a location. I want to move it 30 feet or something. I don't really want to start the engine. I just want to move it. So in shuttle, you can just move it anywhere you want if you're switching it around your garage. In stealth, it only drives on the front axle unless you really step into the gas, you ask for more power, it'll eventually light the engine and give you the power you're asking for, or if you exceed 45 miles an hour. So this is what we call neighborhood exit. That's the mode. So if you want to get out of your neighborhood, get 3 or 4 miles down the road before starting the engine, you can do that. And what you're seeing there, what I was just showing, is what happens when you start to step into it or you start to get to 45 miles an hour. There's a sequence to restart the engine automatically, so you don't have to do anything. So here's some of the other screens. This one you can pull up in the center stack. It's almost like you're a development engineer. Probably a lot of people won't be interested in this, but if you're kind of a tech geek and you want to see what's happening, you can actually see it. It'll give you traces over different amounts of time. You can look at data on the front axle and what's it doing.
Performance app display, watch gauge operation under acceleration, deceleration, and the power flow illumination graphic in the middle. Heavy acceleration, you can see the engine light up and fill, white rear axle, orange fill, now braking, heavy regen on the left, front axle glowing in the center.
So I show you this video to give you an idea of the dynamics of it. This is basically a handheld video during an event, and it was done by Mike Kuchar. Mike, could you stand up again? I introduced him at the beginning. His daughter was filming it.
All done very safely.
She should get the credit. You should have her name on here as a photo credit. But anyway, Mike was the lead development engineer on the E-Ray, and so he's been working for 6 years or so on getting this together. I talked about how complicated it is. It's not a natural thing to pull a car like this out of General Motors, and so there's enormous challenges on all the control systems, the software that has to be written, the graphics I'm showing you. This is all very challenging work, and so for each major vehicle, whether it's a Stingray Z06 or the E-Ray now, we have a lead development engineer. So all of those things, how bring your whole car together, has to be led by a single individual. And Mike has done that. For the last, he's done yeoman's duty, and the results are phenomenal. And as we announced at the beginning, he'll be retiring, unfortunately for us. But I just wanted to say thank you, Mike. Excellent job. Fantastic to have this car out.
One thing all these gauges show really well is how the power flow works throughout the car and what's happening in the battery. I want you all to take back, you can confirm, you saw it in person here. Tell your Corvette friends that couldn't make it. You don't have to plug in an E-Ray. There's no charging infrastructure to worry about. There's no range anxiety. The battery takes care of itself. The Charge Plus button that Tadge was talking about is a way to sort of move where that target state of charge lives. One of the things you can use Charge Plus for is what we call planning your next maneuver. So let's say you want to leave your neighborhood the next morning and you want to do a stealth exit, you want to top off the battery as you're coming in, you just hit that Charge Plus and top it off. Maybe you want to do a hero lap on a road course. The lap prior to that, go ahead and top off the battery. But it's a way for you to tailor what is an otherwise a purely seamless automatic experience to keep the battery exactly where it needs to be.
And just like Josh said, if anybody has watched Formula One qualifying, they're doing exactly that to get their hot lap. They'll do, like, they call it a harvest lap. It's basically the same as Charge Plus on those cars, and then they want their max power for their lap where they try to get pole position. It's really similar.
And we were doing super fun, I'll admit, drag strip runs in the E-Ray development. And when we would do a pass, by the time we got back to the starting box, the battery's full and ready for another charge. So it gives you an idea of how fast, how powerful the battery chemistry is. That's what we were going after to get all that power flow.
It's also very durable. Some people worry, oh, you're going to wear out the battery, you might have to replace the battery. The battery actually, even though power goes in and out very quickly, it's not heavily saturated. Like, we use only a fraction of the battery's true capability, so it's actually not being exercised particularly hard, and so it won't wear out very fast. We expect it to last the life of the car. Okay.
Also, a lot of people, you know, if you haven't yet, make sure if you're interested, you can go online and our visualizer and design your E-Ray. Some of you may have done it before it was even out, but these things happen. But it's a fun way to start, you know, dreaming and seeing all the different options that are available on our Corvette website. And then some other new things we actually, you know, it's not a Corvette if you don't have Kirk Benyon designed stripes on it. So we had to do a special electric blue stripe specifically for the E-Ray, and we had this on our show car. And then, of course, the new colors are outside, the Seawolf Gray, the Riptide, and the Cacti. And, of course, I get a lot of comments that Artemis interior really goes well with that new Cacti green exterior that you can see outside. And this is something that you guys probably don't know about. Don't get ahead. You're getting ahead. Just wait for it. No, I'm just kidding. So we've all been there. You know, how many people have Corvette convertible 8th gens, and you're so proud of it, and you're at the gas station or something, somebody goes, you know, I'd really like to see the engine. I've been there. I'm like, well, you really can't. We got the, you know, it's mid-engine, it's really cool, but, you know, I got a retractable hardtop, which is really cool. So now we have this new option coming. If you want to, you can just do the service position on the tonneau cover on your remote or with the door, and you can show off your Z06 engine, your Stingray engine, your E-Ray engine. And as we speak, we just got one of our first prototype parts in, and it's being installed on the Cacti E-Ray convertible. So after we're done, not yet, after we're done, not yet. After we're done, you can go out and check it out. Hopefully, if the thing worked the way we planned it. It should be installed. And the other cool thing about it is it opens the convertible up to some of the other options that I've heard some people want, you know, like the engine cover accessories, you know, now that are now actually at the factory, the red or the silver, or on the Z06, the red intake and things like that. So it just adds, maybe, you know, the convertible's been so popular, if you hear maybe the one thing that was left that people really wanted, you know, when you have a high performance car, you want to see the engine, so now you can.
Thank you. Got a question. So you're saying a clear engine cover is going to be available?
It's a window to see the engine, and then it'll have an engine cover, standard obviously, and then you can dress it up even further with some of the options as well. So yeah. Oh, I got questions. Yeah, another question. To wash the engine? Not really. It would be just like the car is now, where you can remove that cover, just like you can today. It would be removable the same if you want to, if you need access to the engine for service, or you just want to.
So some of us have been
Detail.
driving around with these for a while, and they stay shockingly clean.
Yeah.
A few of us lost a bet at how long these would go before they got dirty. And it's amazing how long they stay clean, even driving in rain and grit and dirt. They stay really clean.
We'll be able to retrofit, correct?
Yeah, that's actually one of the neat things about it. You can, if you have an existing convertible, the part will fit on existing as well, and accessories is going to make that available as an accessory. So it's exciting, I think, for all of us. I'm a convertible guy. All of us convertible people. It's really the one little thing that was left, I think, to make everybody 100% happy.
It's nice. It's nice to be able to say yes to that. We always get that question because we're always showing the new stuff, and everybody says, "Oh, can I get that on my car?" This is one of the rare occasions again. Yes, it's a bolt-in.
Yes, that's right. You can. Rebecca's gonna get one. How much? Oh my God. It's only 2024 pricing will be released shortly.
Can you make that for the Z06?
It's or any of them, any convertible. Yes. For 24, it'll be factory. We're setting up for the 24 model year, but later, once it's out, it'll also be available as accessory and retrofittable, like Tadge said. So some of the other things, we don't have this here right now, but we are going to have some new Stingray. Of course, can't forget about the Stingray. We love the Stingray. We're going to have some new wheels available for the Stingray, 5 split spoke. And actually, the only live picture I had was when we were on our development ride in Arizona a little bit ago. But it's a beautiful wheel, 5 split spoke wheel. It'll be available. And there's also a unique design accessory wheel that'll be coming out as well, with a little very dynamic design also. And this new factory wheel will be available in both satin graphite with a machine edge and a bright machined. And we have new safety features. We kind of announced this for the E-Ray, but these will filter on to all Corvettes for 2024. New standard features: automatic emergency braking, forward collision alert, front pedestrian braking, following distance indicator, lane keep assist with lane departure warning, and a telebeam auto high beam assist. And I know what you're going to ask. Can I turn these off? Yes, you can. But should you? Maybe not. But the key thing is, we wanted to make, a lot of cars today have these features. We've heard from a lot of people. I have these on my other cars and trucks or whatever. So we wanted to add those to Corvette. And we really designed them to fit in with Corvette, to be not something that intrudes on the driving performance and driving experience. We wanted to make it so that you can adjust them and use them as you see fit and help your driving experience. And but safety is important, of course, to all of us. And they're all standard. And here's a cool thing. Now, when you change your driver mode, the knob in the center, we have our different modes: weather, tour, sport, and track. Then we have the little graph that you see, when it changes. Now we thought it'd be fun to really, design really got involved, and in the center screen, you'll see these cute little videos pop up as you change the mode to further enhance what mode that you've configured your car into. So it's just another way taking advantage of the technology and the electronics to make it a more exciting experience. So these are fun. And of course, new stripes. I mentioned Kirk. We wanted to go to a little bit more of a wider stripe, starting with the 24, which really enhances the Z06 and the E-Ray body design as well. And we carrying over all the colors we've had. And then the new stripe we have is a carbon flash with an accent color. So if you just want a little bit of color, you can get the carbon flash and you get the blue, yellow, orange, red, or silver accent stripes to outline it. So just giving you more options, and these are all installed right here in Bowling Green as a factory option.
E-Ray. So how many people knew we auctioned off the first E-Ray for charity? So yeah, I was lucky enough to be there. It was awesome to see. Rick Hendrick, of course, bought it. He buys all of our VIN 1, so not a lot of drama there, but there was... It was amazing how fast the bidding went up and then just stopped. We were hoping that it would go for more, but the charity, it's called Donors Choose, and I was really impressed with the people and what they're doing. They effectively direct donations straight into classrooms in like micro investments. So their typical investment is like $300, $500, and it goes straight into classrooms. Teachers, they propose ideas that would enhance the learning experience in their classroom, and they just need a little bit of something. Sometimes it's something so basic you wouldn't believe it. And a lot of times teachers end up paying for it out of their own salary because they believe it so thoroughly. Well, this charity funnels money into thousands and thousands of those projects all across the country. If you go to their website, I looked at it, I tried putting in zip codes just to see, school districts that I knew, and sure enough, there was projects in every area that I looked at. And a lot of them were not quite funded, so local donations might have contributed like $100 out of a $300 ask. So now with $1.13 million, they're going to be able to top off thousands of those projects. And so it'll really have a big impact on a lot of different schools around the country. So really, it was really a good cause. I was embarrassed to admit that I hadn't heard of it, but when I looked at it, when I talked to the people, they were phenomenal. So we're really happy to be able to do that. And we do this almost every time. Z06 went for $3.6 million. And it's funny because we see this on TV and the money goes, oh, wow, look at all this money. Rick writes a big check. We never know what happens to it. So this time I've asked the charity, I want an accounting. Tell me, how many projects, what kind of projects. Show me what you did with the money, and I want to share that with the whole Corvette team because we work hard on these cars. It ends when we see the gavel come down, and we don't ever have any follow-up. So we're going to try to find that information and maybe share it at Corvette events also too. So that'll be fun. Want to bring Cody back up?
How many people saw Cody's presentation? Well, the rest of you missed something great.
Okay, we'll be doing rides. We've set up an ice rink out here, and Cody will be giving demo rides after. So you have your... Cody's right there. He can hear you. Cody, you were awesome. Wish I'd seen it. So, yeah, that's some of the fun stuff that we get to do. Obviously, there's a lot of us were nervous. I don't know if Cody talked about this yesterday. This stunt could have gone horribly wrong, on national TV in the middle of New York on this little teeny rink. It's like, oh my God, I'm playing. There's a lot of downside here. But it came off well and got the car a lot of visibility, and obviously the after party continues to go on. Everybody loves it. So if you haven't realized it by now, you've come to the conclusion that our strategy is to talk so long that everybody's either exhausted or they have to go to the bathroom, and so there's no time for questions. But if anybody's got any questions, I know one thing. Yesterday, there was apparently, maybe during Kai's presentation, there was a discussion of paint colors, and they had some paint chips that people could take with them, and they went fast. Here's another box of paint chips. So after the presentation...
Don't all run up right now.
Yeah, don't come running up right now. But if you missed one yesterday, you can probably get one here today. So I think it's time...
Also during Kai's presentation, there was a question asked about how much the body weighed. And I was trying to hand signal Chuck, and he can't read my sign language. And the straight answer is it depends on what you count as a body, because a Corvette doesn't build like any other car. We don't have the doors and everything hung on it in the body shop. So what we consider body primary structure is that aluminum frame that Kai went through. And the aluminum frame weighs about 375 pounds. I have a picture of two people, yeah, they're bigger guys, but two people carrying the frame, one at each bumper. So it's a very lightweight, efficient structure. You see the robots whipping that thing around, transferring it between tools. So there's at least a partial answer to the question asked yesterday.
Okay, can we entertain other questions? Oh. Are we going to try to use a mic? Okay.
Did I hear it correct? This thing can crab walk?
No, that's the Hummer.
That was Keith's April Fool's joke in the back there. Good job, you fooled everybody.
But in all seriousness, I think Cody did an excellent job yesterday. Any of us that saw it. I really want to see that full presentation and show it to my grandson. It is so impressive. You know, with
You don't want to see art? You don't want to show him ours, just Cody's?
Can we just get Cody back up here?
In Cody's first trip to the museum, he surpassed all of us, and we can't even compare anymore.
Good job, Cody. Other questions here?
Thank you. I've got a comment and a question. It wasn't too many meetings ago when we thought the start-stop technology would not be appropriate for the Corvette. And I think we had some conversation to that extent. And now we see it available as standard equipment. The question is, you talk about the battery and the E-ray not really getting saturated. Is there a system that will cool that system, or does it not need to be cooled from the outside?
It needs to be cooled. Actually, there's 3 cooling systems separate and unique to the E-ray. There's a little radiator you can see on the right front of the car. If you go look at any of the cars parked, you'll be able to see that radiator. And the cutaway chassis outside is a great example to see all these systems. That cools the oil and the front drive unit. Then we have what's called a power electronics cooling loop. That's where all the high flow current is going through the inverter. That probably sees the most heat. That's got a coolant loop that exchanges heat with what's called we call it a CONRAD, a condenser radiator combo. So it's a condenser in every other Corvette. The bottom third on the E-ray is also a radiator to help cool that system. And then the battery pack themselves are cooled with a chiller that exchanges thermal energy with refrigerant, just like running through the air conditioning system. And the battery actually doesn't want to be cold or hot. Its optimum temperature is right around 100 degrees. So we use charge-discharge as you're first operating the E-ray to get the battery up to temp quickly, and then we try to cap it and maintain it there. The E-ray will not catch fire. It will keep it optimal temperature. There's been a lot of work done on all batteries, and the E-ray is no exception, to make sure that what we call a thermal runaway can't happen. I wish people could see the testing we do at GM, but on the battery specifically, we poke holes in the battery cell with needles, and then run charge and discharge through the battery and see what happens. The battery is in terms of energy is quite small. I tell people it's more like a slow capacitor. It's an energy recovery system. That's what this car does. It doesn't need a lot of storage capacity. You're not driving long distances on just battery alone, so its energy density is small. It's got internal circuit protection in case anything were to happen, and there's no battery that can be more protected than the battery in the E-ray, carefully packaged right in the center of the body structure, so it's safe. We're going to warranty the battery for 8 years or 100,000 miles. And we build the battery, we General Motors build the battery in Brownstown, Michigan. So we're not buying it from China or somewhere that we don't have control over components. We, of course, should the E-Ray ever go out of production, we will keep building that battery for 8 more years under that warranty and beyond. So who knows what will happen 70 years from now? That's a long time with evolution of battery technology, but we are going to... Well, under warranty, it would be free. We'll see what the free market economy demands for a battery 8 years from now.
And the battery doesn't just die. It just slowly loses capacity. So after 8 years, it may not fully take a charge, but it's not like the car breaks. The car will operate just fine. You'll just have less range on the battery. So we're trying to keep some semblance of order here. We do have a microphone. We'll try to get to everybody's questions, but we're going to try to go in order so people can speak here.
If you guys are willing and able to jump off just the E-Ray for a second, is there a plan and a timeline in place to sunset the C8?
You don't
Are
like
you
it
tired of it
anymore?
already?
What would we do? He wants to sunset the C8 already.
We don't
You
want
have
to
time.
either.
You got plenty of time. Just buy one and don't worry about it. You got lots of time.
We love the C8, and you can see from the sales figures, it's just getting rolling. You know us. We got more coming.
Tadge, my question is, I work at a Chevrolet store. I'm the Corvette specialist. When will the E-Ray be able for us to get allocation to order? Is it coming like later in the year, like you're going to roll the regular 24 Vettes out first, and then this will come on later?
No, that's a good question. When's the E-Ray? We haven't set the exact date, but E-Ray is a 2024 model, and it'll be the same timing as the 24 Stingray, 24 Z06, and E-Ray will all be at the same time as for a typical 24 model year later this year. But we're not going to set a date right now. Okay. Who else?
I saw you have a control now for how far you are behind the car in front of you. Have you thought about adaptive cruise control?
Are you asking about adaptive cruise control?
Yeah.
Do you want adaptive cruise control? How many people want adaptive cruise control? How many people don't want it?
Oh, we made the right decision.
The nays have it. So the backstory is that at the time we made the decision on our cruise control, the thinking was you had to either have it or not that you could have a choice in the vehicle. The logic, thought up by lawyers, of course, is what if somebody gets confused about which state they're in? They're expecting the car to slow down on its own, and it doesn't. Whose fault is it when you rear end somebody? That's since changed. So there are cars that have it mechanized, so you can choose. You can have it either way. So we didn't package all of the sensors and things because we made the choice, because based on feedback, just like we got just now, most people didn't want the adaptive cruise control if that's all you could get. So we're still studying it. Maybe we could do that something during the life cycle if we can get to one where you choose which way you want it. So we hear you. We're thinking about it.
But we always thought about what Corvette driver is going to follow somebody. You're the lead car. They adapt to you.
A front pull down.
Oh, that's a good question. The front, we actually have those. The questions on the front pull down. We've gotten that question since the 8th gen got introduced, and finally we do have that where just like the rear, the front, because originally, the front was how we're used to at most cars, it's a hood. Now it became more like a trunk. So now it does have for 24. The E-Rays have those actually installed now, the pull-down front hood. Yes, all 24s will have that feature.
So
standard.
For my question I had, as far as the E-Ray, do you guys consider the ban that currently is going on between the NCCC for racing right now? Do you have an answer?
I'm glad somebody asked that. So there's not going to be any ban from the NCCC. We got that. It was a misunderstanding, misreporting, internet, whatever. Things like this happen. And so there'll be something coming very soon from NCCC that the E-Ray is going to be welcome to all events for NCCC for E-Ray.
I'm going to jump ahead to the future just for a second. You're probably going to ignore this question, but what is the reality of the four-door and an SUV coming?
You got Car and Drivers making that up for us, so you'll have to ask them. We're just as surprised as you are.
One more question? Okay, who's got the last one?
So for your lane assist, your follow distance, all that you showed, I assume that was for E-Ray. Is that applying for, is that going to be on the 24Z06 also?
Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you up. I think I know what you're going to say. Yeah, for 24, all the safety features that I discussed are on all Stingray, Z06, and E-Ray.
Even the engine cutoff?
No, not the start-stop. That's E-Ray only.
Okay. We don't need that on the Z06.
It was the safety features he was talking about. That package of features will be across the board standard on every model.
Okay. And that engine cutoff, is that default to on, so you have to physically turn it off every time?
Yes.
Again, it depends on the mode too. Like the tour mode, it's default on. There's certain modes like track mode where it doesn't ever come on.
Okay.
For example.
Okay.
And we're last to the party on that. You know, we've talked about that for years, and you see virtually everybody is at start-stop. And we dug our heels in and held back as long as we could. But you know the way the world is going. And honestly, if we don't do things like the E-Ray, if we don't do things like start-stop, there won't be a Corvette. We have to play along. We're part of the corporate average fuel economy, and so eventually, with the regulations around the world becoming more and more restrictive, if we don't start moving in that direction, helping out as much as we can within the whole portfolio of vehicles, then Corvette will be such a bad player that people will say we shouldn't do it. So we're trying to walk that fine line of giving you guys exactly what you want and being good politicians and good teammates with all of the rest of the world, all the other forces in the world. So that's what you're seeing. Okay, we'll be around today and tomorrow. I know some of you probably didn't get your questions answered, but thanks so much for sitting through this whole thing. It's awesome to be able to be here and see all you guys. Thanks for coming.